Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17. Ace. There we go, there's your cue. And we're going over a how-to video, it's the first one of 5, so enjoy that, of the Wehrmacht. Now, I'm going to be going over the Wehrmacht. I'm pretty much going to be keeping on my side without capturing the points. To keep this more accurate to a battlefield, that's how I'm going to separate this from the other how-tos. If you want a more vehicle description and go into that, you can go into my previous how-to videos. But if you want to kind of go into like core strategy and build, this is what that's kind of for. So typically, a lot of players will build this, the infantry company first for Wehrmacht. And because, again, they want to kind of have a nice wide range of forces. So in here, you want to get the Grenadiers. Also comes with a mortar team and sniper. And, of course, you have the building with the MG. There is a strategy to go with an MG42, a sort of like spam. And Ace can concur, support spam can be very effective only if you are a very... the best way to describe this would be like a very on-point player, kind of focusing on your micro. But because if you fail, which a lot of people do spectacularly, then the enemy can just pulverize you, whether using infantry flanks or using such things as just vehicles, which the Soviets have, which is also something you have to look into when you're playing as the Wehrmacht. So the Wehrmacht also comes with Grenadiers, and these are great frontline infantry units. And Ace, if there's anything you want to say during this, please go ahead. We're not actually going to be fighting, so just this is going... Again, be a how-to, but I'm going to set this up as if it was a normal game to kind of give you the basic of build order. Next thing, again, I'm wasting a little bit of time talking, but either you want to go with the Grenadier, and especially on a wider open map like this, you definitely do. But sometimes you want to go sometimes mortar or sniper, depending on what the enemy has. Now, let's see what the enemy is. The enemy is the Soviets, so we can expect a lot of either conscripts, maxims, etc. Mortars would be great. The sniper, I would say probably not as much with the Soviets. Yes, against the British and yes, against the Americans, but not so much against Soviets because they have 6-man squads. So the sniper, which picks off one guy at a time, is not going to be as effective versus the Soviets than, let's say, the British or the Americans. Kind of going into that. Now, the Grenadiers, that's your frontline combat units, so they'll deal with the infantry and whatnot. And to be fair, against most infantry units, they're pretty reliable, especially in heavy cover. But again, you have to focus on that heavy cover. Reminder, you have negative, which is this. You have normal cover, which is the white. You have yellow, which is the medium cover, and heavy cover, which is green. So a green cover would be like behind this truck or a piece of metal, piece of heavy wood, etc. Now after this, and again, you'll eventually capture enough territory, you want to upgrade your battle phases, which is right here in the home menu. So escalate battle phase 1, 2, and 3. Now the nice thing about these is, again, when you upgrade them, is you get more and more buildings. And you don't necessarily need to, like other factions, to unlock the building to unlock the next building. So the Soviets have to unlock all of their buildings in an effort to win this game. But... on the flip side, for the Wehrmacht, you don't need to. You can technically go straight up to Heavy Panzer Corps, though you'll leave yourself in a very bad situation in terms of the enemy possibly rushing you with armor. And unless, again, since you didn't go light mechanized, you could be in a downfall because you don't have a lot of AT units or anything along those lines. Of course, you have doctrines, which I'll go into later in a separate menu to kind of show you my personal favorite doctrines and why. But for right now, I'm just showing you gameplay. The Grenadiers do have a anti-vehicle unit weapon, which is the Panzerfaust. It can definitely snare armor, and snaring armor is something you really need to do in terms of just making sure it's pinned. And that way, of course, you can kind of get that final kill with multiple Panzerfausts, which people do by getting multiple Grenadiers, or getting an AT gun to fire that final shot.
Heads up, the Panzerfaust also will not snare a full health medium tank and up. It'll always snare a light vehicle. You need to damage the medium to heavy vehicles first before you can successfully snare them.
Exactly. Also, just as a heads up, the medium vehicles or any vehicles have to be at least 75% or under for you to snare it, roughly. So if you are, let's say, a Sherman medium tank on the Allied side with an AT round from an anti-tank gun, that should be enough to bring it down to snare it. So just kind of give you a compensate. Also, you have the rifle grenade, which is pretty great. It'll fire a shot and can hit enemies in cover and can possibly even one-shot them if they're all clumped up, which, again, a lot of times people don't really recognize. So, like, for example, in this situation, they're really clumped up. Or this is perfect. This is a great clumped up situation. So the rifle grenade off the side could easily one-shot this MG.
You also want to take note, this also builds into the Grenadiers. You typically want to use them to engage from medium to long range. You really don't want them close range. Their primary bread and butter is a mid-range unit. Anytime anyone closes a distance on you, you're going to lose that engagement 9 times out of 10, unless you've upgraded them with the Jewer 43s, but we'll get into that later.
The nice thing is also when they get Vet 1, they get free medic first. They get the first aid upgrade, which is nice, but a lot of times if I go back to base, and I'm going to do this right now, people will build a bunker in their base, and that way they can put medic supplies to kind of heal. Because that's the downfall for the Wehrmacht, is they don't necessarily have a great medical unit. So you have to build this bunker to make sure you have medical supplies to heal your guys automatically. It's a really good tactic if you're the Wehrmacht to have that. Though, if we get to it a little bit later, I also want to show the half-track. But also, as a reminder, let's get into the Pioneers. The Pioneers have both the Flamethrower ability and the Minesweeper ability, but you can only get one. Minesweepers are great, again, if you're versing players like the Soviets or the British, who have a tendency to lay down a lot more mines than the Americans. But essentially, mines are good for snaring armor and hurting infantry, so you always want to keep an eye out for them. Flamethrowers, though, are very powerful close-range units against infantry. So powerful, in fact, that I've seen like just full groups of Pioneers just hold them back. Meanwhile, again, also, let's just retreat this unit back to base. And again, if you want to go into more like how they do that, again, it's over here: attack, stop, retreat, etc. But also,
RTS pro tip of the day: if you want to get better at coding using the hotkeys, force yourself for 2 weeks straight to only use the hotkeys. Eventually, it'll become second nature.
Yeah, or just don't, like me, and suck at this game.
You're gonna want to do it, trust me.
Or just suck at this game, like me. If you want to be more like me, just saying.
You don't.
In any case, so let's upgrade. So the bunker.
Oh, by the way, he didn't explain it. Flamethrowers in this game, the way they do damage is inverse to regular damage. If you are the heavier cover you're in, it will increasingly do damage, and the lower cover you're in, it'll do less damage. So if you're out in the open, the flamethrower is not effective. If you're in cover in a building, it'll decimate your units.
Yes.
This is inverse to traditional firearms.
Yeah, so you always have to watch out for that, flame half-tracks, flame tanks, etc. Now, the bunkers that people can place down, that's a special ability the Wehrmacht have, or these bunkers. The OKW can use it, and every single faction maybe has a variant of the bunker, or
Except the Soviets.
Yeah, except for the poor Soviets. But this bunker, you can upgrade it with an MG42, which is a great machine gun to hold back. You can upgrade it with a medic station, which you'll do at base, so that way they can heal the infantry's health. And then you can also do it with a command post. So the command post will heal the infantry base units. You can see here there's a 4-man squad. If you lose a member of that squad, you can use that to heal it. So this is great for having like a forward base over here, let's say behind this cover. So let's say I send my Grenadiers, or send a Grenadier squad, and I send over here, and I put 2 bunkers down, let's say in this sector. I can use it and upgrade these to have medics and command posts, so that way I have a forward base to heal my units away from my front base. Sorry, my just normal base. So what that does allows me to keep this fight going, and also puts a hurt on the enemy because I have fully health guys right on the front, ready to go. The MG42 is also pretty good because its special ability is arm-piercing round. So if you get to Veterancy 1, it'll activate a special ability which will decimate light armor and actually even hurt medium armor to an extent. Not amazingly, but it will do so.
MG42 is the best machine gun in the game. Does decent damage and also has extremely good suppression. It's going to be your bread. It's your bread and butter, and you're always going to lead off with it when you play the Wehrmacht. Always get MG42.
The one thing I will say about the MG42 that maybe is a little different compared to some is, yes, while I truly believe it's probably the most versatile and all-around best MG in the game, especially when you get them right off the bat, it's one downfall. The one downfall that I can honestly think of is you have to get up to Vet 1 to have armor-piercing rounds, which can be a little bit of an issue for some players, but other than that, it's fantastic.
Realistically, it should never be an issue. As long as you're using it, you'll pretty much always get up to Vet 1 every game. Yeah. You would literally have to put outside your base. But if you just play normally, you should get up to Vet 1.
Yeah. Also, we haven't talked really about the German mortar, which has a really great ability of counter barrage when it gets up to Vet 1. So let's say if the Soviets are spamming mortars or an enemy mortar, you can use this to counteract any mortar within its range. So that way you can kind of always have like anti-mortar barrages going out so that we don't have to worry about enemy artillery.
It works on all indirect fire pieces.
Yeah,
it also
so
works on-
mortars,
if it's in range of artillery pieces,
Katyushas,
it'll also fire.
stuff like
Katyushas
that.
as well.
Which is
Pretty
hilarious to have a bunch of mortars fire on a Katyusha or something. But also you can drop down smoke, which smoke's great because you can drop down smoke, and what that will do is prevent an MG sight radius, because again, you see here, this is sight, all the spots that are available. So you deploy that, you can drop it, and let's say there's an MG, you can drop it right on the MG, and that way you can run through. Now, also, you can see that right now there's 3 capture points that we're not grabbing. That's just because we don't want this game to end. The capture points you can see here will tick down the 500 point slot, and with that, that will win you or make you lose the game, depending on who has control of that. It also provide more stakes, because then you have to capture these points, and if you're down, you're going to want to put the pedal to the metal to get those points. Oh boy. Also, let's get to the next building, because we just built that. So, because I think we covered everything, except for the sniper, which I'll say the sniper has a special round that will like pin infantry, especially in large groups. So that's good.
Sniper's very good. You don't have the sight set for it. It's really good for counter sniping other snipers, and versus. I always get one versus non-Soviets, but even versus Soviets, still a good unit. But it does require a lot of micro to be effective, and if you misuse it, you've set yourself back quite a bit.
Oh, and real quick, I should probably mention something. The this Pioneer group, this squad, can lay down 2 sets of mines on top of building a bunker, barbed wire, and sandbags, which are good for either preventing cover or making sure you have cover. The Teller Mine is great for blowing up vehicles, which again in choke points is amazing. The Teller Mine will insta-kill a light vehicle and heavily damage a medium armored vehicle. So it's fantastic to put on choke points, such as let's say this river crossing right here, or in the middle. Areas that are not in conflict, to put it down real quick, and then when the enemy sends their armor, that will snare them, and it's incredible. Also,
S-mines are also visible when you put them down to the enemy.
Yes, because of these things. You can see here the nice little sign that has the skull and crossbones. So they can see it, but that being said, a lot of people are idiots. So they'll just walk their infantry in, and you'll just see squads disappear, and they're like, "What happened?"
While we're on the topic of mines, the engineering units, this is generally for also all factions. The engineers also can, besides being upgraded with the flamethrower, can be upgraded with minesweepers, which can see and defuse enemy mines.
Yes, it can, absolutely.
And just so you know, if you can see the enemy mine with a mine detection kit, it will not trigger if you walk over it. It will still detonate if it gets fired upon, though.
Yes.
So keep in mind.
If an enemy tank, let's say you're over ice, and they fire on the mine that's on the ice, it'll still blow up the mine and sink all your units. So, you know, just as a helpful reminder about that. But in any case, the Panzer Grenadiers, the half-track, the Scout Car, and the AT Gun are all available in the Light Mechanized Company. And a lot of people will rush for this, especially for the half-track. It's a great unit to get to pretty much burn enemies with. The Panzer Grenadiers are great close-range infantry units, but again,
and
you can
also
upgrade,
great anti-tank units.
yeah, you can upgrade them with Panzer Shreks, and they'll just blow up. Especially in large groups, you'll see this in large blobs of Panzer Grenadiers. You'll see them counteract a lot of armor, because their Panzer Shrek ability is very powerful, and like you get 2 squads upgraded, and it'll take out a T-34. Or even like heavily damage a Sherman on the Allied side. So you really have to worry about that. Plus, bundle grenades are also great. They're very powerful, and they'll kill squads very easily. But in any case, the other thing I did right now is I upgraded to Battle Phase 2 and Battle Phase 3. Upgrading to Battle Phase 2 is probably, you can see here, the more costly thing, because it's 290 compared to Battle Phase 3. Because they really wanted people to focus on lighter vehicles before jumping all the way up to medium and then like some heavier armored units or special. But if we look on here, the support armor corps has the Stug G, the Flakpanzer, and the Panzer IV. And each of them are good in their own separate abilities. The Stug is great against armor. The Flak Panzers go against infantry and shooting down aircraft, which, by the way, watch out for the RNG gods on that. A plane crash into your units will pretty much kill your unit, except if it's a tank. And the Panzer IV is just an all-around really good medium tank. I've seen a lot of times people will go with the, like a spam of a certain vehicle, which will be a Stug spam, so they'll spam that to counteract armor, a Flak Panzer spam to counteract a lot of infantry, or maybe just good Panzer IV group to counteract a lot of enemies. And again, they're not the most like powerful units you can get, but if used correctly, you don't necessarily need the most powerful unit to win the game. You just need a very well-used unit. if that makes sense, Ace.
Mm-hmm.
Because the smallest unit can sometimes beat the biggest unit. Like a King Tiger, you would think it's probably the like most powerful tank in the game, but I've seen it go down so quickly just based on a bunch of small units like conscripts and such, if used correctly. Or I saw your troops moving around satchels, which again we'll get to with the Soviets. The scout car, I guess quickly going over that real quick, and the half-track are both lighter vehicles that the Germans can deploy. The half-track can be upgraded to get flame projectors, which is incredibly powerful against infantry. Probably a very, very good anti-infantry unit. And then you also have the scout car, which is really great against just for sight lines. It's great, especially when upgraded. You can see your Vet 2. Hold on. Yeah, improves the vehicle's sight, and then you upgrade that with, let's say, a spotting scope. Like, I don't think I no, I don't have it, but you can see extremely far. And then also, it's great for shooting down planes as well. So nice a light AA unit you have there. But overall, it's a nice versatile support unit to help your infantry on pushes. I wouldn't say it's great necessarily for like taking out any armored unit, but if you need something to just help you out, it's a pretty good unit. And just to demonstrate the flame projectors, when they fire, they leave down flames. And those flames will stay on the map for a decent period of time. So if the infantry runs through it, they will get hurt. So just as they notice that if they fire upon you, don't go into the area that's still on fire, because you will take damage. Doesn't matter if you're allies or axis. Now, continuing on, we also have the AT gun. And also, we'll get a Stug and a flak panzer real quick to kind of show how that is. But let's for a little bit of while we wait for that stuff to build, let's send this stuff over to the Soviet side to see what. Oh my God! Hello, T-34. How's it going?
You're in the wrong neighborhood.
But see, what I'm doing also. Oh my God! Yeah, you're building a lot of armor. But the thing about it that also to take into consideration is the fact. Let's see, my scout car. That T-34 can only fire with its turret, and units that have a slower turret will have a harder time hitting it. Now, again, a T-34 has a good rotation speed, so you don't have to worry. Oh, you son of a bitch. I know. Okay, that's what you got. Okay, so he did something, which I saw him like, oh, no. But I'll show you that a little bit later. But in any case, yeah, so light vehicles, again, necessarily, if you put them straight up in a fight versus medium armor, it's not going to work. But if you use them as support with infantry, which I highly recommend doing, never send an armored unit by itself. You'll be doing yourself a favor and keeping that unit alive. In any case, let's take a look at this pack gun, shall we? This pack gun, the Pack 40, is a pretty damn good pack gun because not only does it have good, long range and has a good fire rate, but it has that special ability. It is a target weak point, which can like pin armor, so you can get that extra shot in or two with your infantry or other armored units, which is great for, once again, snaring enemy armor to make sure you get the kill, which is something that, again, the Wehrmacht are very good at, just making sure they actually get the kill on allied vehicles, because if you don't, the allies will just multiply and can have a lot more vehicles, and that can just be very bad for you as a German player. So you want to make sure you get that kill in. Or, again, most factions, that's the same thing, but especially with the Wehrmacht, you want to make sure. But the nice thing about the Wehrmacht, as well, as you see with all these infantry units, because, again, that's pretty much the last infantry unit or support unit that you can deploy, is that they're well versatile. You can literally send, like, mass grenadier spam. You can do mass MG spam. You can do mass panzer grenadier spam. And they're all viable options. There's not one that's better than the other. It depends on the map, of course. Like, this map is a little bit more clustered, a lot more cover. So, depending on the situation, MG spam, especially because of all the areas you can come at, is probably not a viable option on this map, comparatively so to other maps. Whereas, let's say, having frontline units might be a little bit better, or having Panzer Grenadiers lie in wait could also be a lot more efficient. It just depends, and that's depending on your strategy. But again, this is kind of just showing different units. Now, since the last time I did this how-to video, there have been some updates on some units getting better, but that's more special units, such as that KV-8 becoming more powerful and more of a hassle. But again, it's a flamethrower unit, so you have to note that that flamethrower unit is going to be more powerful versus infantry. So you want to make sure that you're ready for that.
After the update, the KV-8's main gun can take on a Panzer IV.
Great! Just fucking great.
You counter a KV-8 with AT guns that are far away and Stugs and shit, and you just pray.
Hey, can you deploy that KV-8 up the mid? Because I want to show them something. So the Stug is a lighter tank destroyer, while this pack gun is just your normal pack. So I'm just going to put up the situation, so you can see a KV-8 flamethrower move on up. Actually, for some reason, it's glitched. I can see literally the little symbol saying that you switched to anti-infantry. So you can see right now both of them opening fire on the KV-8. And you'll notice something. You would think that in this situation, a KV-8, a flamethrower unit, would win. But alas, that is simply not the case necessarily. Because again, they're both either normal or lighter tank destroyer versions. Now again, the KV-8 is not known for having a great armor. And if you want to retreat that, you can. I kind of serve my point. But the Stug versus a heavier tank on the allied side is not going to do as well. Now again, in this situation, the KV-8 had a very light gun. It only has 45mm. But if you compare that to a T-34, which by the way, if you can deploy the T-34, I also want to show something else. So let's say I move up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm winning. This is going to be great. You can see here Ace is going to use that T-34 to his advantage. And it has a mobile turret, or like a turret that can rotate. So this Stug is pretty much in a bad situation, especially if I stand by itself, because he can just do loop-de-loops around it. Wow, the Stug is... Man, it's actually doing pretty damn well. Now, I could counter it by switching the other way and turning. Like, again, trying to anticipate or move around. But, again, he can counteract my actions and keep getting the rear armor hit. So no matter what I do, he's going to counter me. So that's something you have to take for take for your units. You have to make sure you use them effectively. Now, if I rushed over Grenadiers and I tried to use again a Panzerfaust against the T-34 to snare it, you also see here one Panzerfaust won't do that. I need a second Panzerfaust to do that. But if I were to snare that thing's armor and destroy its engine and make sure it was crippled, the Stug would be able to kill it, move back, and knock it out. But again, that's kind of that's also reinforcing the thing that you need to have support infantry against armor. You need to make sure that they help, because if you send armor by itself, it's more vulnerable rather than working as a team. Now, the Ostwind, oh boy, we're going to send this baby out against that damaged T-34, because I kind of want to do so also to show a point versus armored vehicles of a different variety. And I'm putting down a bunch of fuel caches, by the way, which you can absolutely do. But in most situations, you think, oh, a flak panzer, it's not going to really work against the T-34. And you're right to an extent, but as you can see, against a rear armor shot, it is causing damage. So it's not going to win a fight necessarily, but if you need to kill a T-34, you could. But it's not designed for that, as you can tell.
You never want to do that.
Yeah, again, ideally.
If you have support in micro, you can do it, but don't ever send an Ostwind versus a somewhat almost full health T-34 even snared.
The reason I want to show that is because the T-34, especially against like OKW, you'll fight a lot of AA guns and stuff like that. And the T-34, as you can tell, was taking damage. It actually lost about 25% of its health from the Flak Panzer. Yes, it didn't survive, but it is something to note that the T-34 is susceptible to that. And again, some other light armored vehicles. So again, it may not be the perfect weapon for this scenario, but it is still, you can still technically use it. And I've seen people use AA guns and stuff like that to fight armor before and actually win. A great example would be like a Bofors versus a Panzer IV. The Bofors should not win, but in a lot of scenarios, it still can put up a damn good fight.
The Bofors actually should win that fight because it's a 40mm shell.
Yeah, but also just take note that it costs way less than a Panzer IV. So people will automatically think that, oh, this unit is more costly, so it will win me the game. Which is...
don't look at things as strictly. I mean, there is a cost to benefit ratio of sacrificing and doing something in this game, and the economy is important. But largely, just because something costs more doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
Yeah. Now, if you want something that will absolutely tear apart a T-34, that would be a Panther. The Panther, oh boy. The Panther is in itself, and I'll get out to play that in a second. The Panther in itself is a unit that is incredibly powerful, but it's incredibly powerful designated against armor. Yes, it will do damage to versing infantry, but it's not designed for that. And again, that's simply because, again, the Panther is designed to fight armored vehicles. And against, let's say, the Allies, because of its front-sloped armor, you'll typically see, like, rounds constantly bounce off Panthers and stuff like that. But we'll get to that in a second. Meanwhile, can you deploy another T-34 into mid?
It's
All right.
it never left.
Oh, okay. Well, you healed it.
Well, of course I heal it. Not gonna keep it there.
You can see here. I know that. But you can see here again. Teamwork makes the dream work, and against that T-34, just had a few infantry units, and managed to knock out that T-34. Now I could probably Panzerfaust to that and kill it sooner. But again, that also kind of counteracts the point that a lot of people have where I need armor to fight armor. No, infantry can do just as much if used correctly versus armor. Again, never, ever, ever expect infantry to necessarily win the game. Because, again, I see a lot of people that will spam Panzer Grenadiers, and then they will get upset when Panzer Grenadier spam is not working for them because there are a ton of counters for infantry. But it's a great support option.
Don't neglect your supporting AT.
Yeah.
AT guns, snares, your AT infantry, like the Panzer Grans with their Panzer Shreks. All very versatile, all very important in the Wehrmacht arsenal.
Exactly. Again, pack guns as well. Again, make sure you have a pack gun.
Packs are good. Packs also have a special ability that allows you to like stun an enemy vehicle, which pretty much is a pretty overpowered move in the sense that, oh dear God, I lost my tank.
Yeah, exactly. Also, again, just to put in perspective, again, because I'm kind of giving you a how-to for this, having multiple packs also can be a good scenario because you just don't need one. I've seen a lot of people who'll go basically Grenadiers and then we'll get pack guns and we'll just fire like a volley against armor, and that will surprise the hell out of people. Rather than just having one. And also, but here's the thing though, I see a lot of people to group up all the packs in a straight line. Don't do that. And if you do that, it's fine for a time, but the enemy could easily counteract with armor. That's with armored artillery, like a Katusha or a priest or sexton, something along those lines, and just wreck your pack gun. Wow, that was actually a good location. Now, kind of just show you an example that's in Su-85, but again, even though it's a tank destroyer, the Panther is something to be reckoned with.
Panther can be an Su-85 if it can get around mobility and support it.
Yeah.
However, ideally, you don't want to take it straight on.
Yeah, no, you definitely don't.
Oh, I see. We're gonna get aggressive. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting aggressive because right now, this Panther, technically, I could wreck your Katusha and whatnot. And I can get out, and I can use Blitz to make sure I can't get out of there. You can also go up to it with the MG42 machine gun to make it a little bit better against the infantry. But as you can see, I'm just constantly popping rounds against it, so I can win this game or win this engagement. Now, the other unit I want to just demonstrate again. I'm just showing you the base Wehrmacht units because again, there's all sorts of strategies you can get with the commanders because each commander or doctrine, I guess for the Germans. That's what they're called. I just call them commanders. But in any case, all of these have 5 special abilities that you can deploy. Unless you unfortunately glitch out and that doesn't happen and you don't have that, which has happened multiple times and you're just stuck with the base units. But it's a scenario in which you can have these 5. And these 5 can alter the course of the game, which is why, again, you can see on the mini-map that there's all these buttons. Which, again, you have the call to vote to surrender. You have idle infantry to kind of cycle through. You have the next idle vehicle, so it goes through your vehicles. You have tactical map, which pulls up this tactical map. I don't use this all that much. Some people do. That's great. I don't. Take it for what you will. You have the attack here option. You have the menu, which pulls up this. Or you can hit escape and do the exact same thing. But the one thing I will show is this player list. You can see here I haven't picked a commander yet. When I do, I'm just going to pick a random one because I'll pick the new, the revised doctrine. When I click on this, the German infantry doctrine, you can literally see on this menu what you've gotten. And you can't see what the enemy's gotten, but you can see what you've gotten.
And where your allies are going.
The reason I say that is because do not, as a German or allied player, or pretty much any faction, especially if you see the enemy team doing the exact same thing, do not spam the exact same faction, because I see a lot of people pick the exact same doctrine over and over and over again. So you'll have like 4 German infantry. Let's just put that. A lot of times you'll see it's like 4 fortifications for OKW or something ridiculous. But the reason is the enemy can counter that if they find out that, oh, they're all using this doctrine. We can easily counter it because we have these. We can use this strategy. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of flexibility, which is why you want to go 4 doctrines for up to 4v4s that are different. And also, when you pick a doctrine, make sure it's something that is feasible for the map. Don't just pick something because you like it. I like B4 as the Soviets, but I don't pick it every time. Even
yes,
though.
You do.
Okay,
don't lie to the people.
Shut up. I don't necessarily pick it every time. I always want to pick a doctrine that is best for that scenario and for my team. Such as myself and Ace will always have a recon ability and a direct strike ability to counteract artillery. That's something you have to keep in mind. So let's have a small engagement over here. Let's have a small engagement of just everything we've learned so far. So we're gonna have I'll send a handful of units to mid. Well, we'll see if we capture it. You can see here he's placing a mine or a demo, which again, kind of annoying. But again, if we see that, because that will ensnare our armor, we can just fire a rifle grenade at that spot, and it will blow it up. No, hold on.
Rifle grenades do not explode.
Hold on, it will. Hold on.
There you go.
You're like, it won't explode mines. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. In any case, I'm also using that cover, which I say, again, you want to have. Moving up the pack gun to support. Having a special ability on standby. You can see here he has a nice armored line. But let's call in an artillery strike on these units, kind of push him out. And again, the enemy may have more units, but overall, we're going to probably win this battle. And again, it's just using what you have properly. He had more units and a better defensive line, but I just used a better ability and was more on point. That being said, if he was good, he would probably have dodged the frag bomb and killed everything. So, once again, not exactly equivalent in every scenario, but that's a great way to show, like, yes, you can win scenarios. Now, unfortunately, he has more infantry, so he is pushing right now, which is pretty bad. But, that being said, oh, nice job with the satchels. Destroy, of course, support equipment, always very nice. But overall, that was actually a pretty damn good engagement. We killed all of his armor, and we beat him back. Now, the 2 units that we haven't really discussed too much about is the Panzerwerfer, which is great, as you saw, for hitting targets in a large grouping. It's a quick shot, but if used correctly, very good. Now, he just snared my armor, which would be great if you can kill it. I'm just going to pull back my... Yep, he's called... Oh, you son of a bitch. You called in that strike.
Yeah, of course.
You son of a... Okay, there's an overpowered ability. I'll discuss this later. But when I get to the Soviets.
It's not overpowered.
Under doctrines. It's overpowered. It's absolutely overpowered. Sean admitted it yesterday. But anyway, the Panzerwerfer is great for killing stuff in large groupings. It is a little weird because actually you want to be as close as possible with the Panzerwerfer, because you can see here when I fire it, I'm just showing an example, that when it fires all the rockets, it'll kill anything in this grouping. And probably will be hit by artillery shortly on it. No? Really? Okay. Never mind. Cool.
That artillery only fires with sight, Greyshot. That's why it's kind of not super overpowered.
Yeah, alright. But in any case, it's very effective right now, while people don't expect it. But in any case, the Panzerwerfer is great for killing blobs infantry, and it'll hurt armor, but don't expect... If you're trying to fire at the very edge of its range, don't expect it to do a ton of damage. It's least effective when it's fired at the maximum range. You want to have a little bit closer, which makes it a little bit more vulnerable. But that said, it's still a very good mobile artillery unit. And we also have the Brumbar real quick. Brumbar is great for killing infantry and also breaking down fortifications. It has a great explosive shot, very powerful, and very good at killing infantry. And also it can take a lot of damage with its front armor. So if you're versing AT guns or whatnot on the enemy side, it can take a lot of hits and probably kill the AT gun even straight up. You probably want to aim at, again, flank an AT unit, but worst case scenario, it can go a few rounds with an AT gun and possibly kill it if done correctly. No, overall, that's all the base units that the Germans have. Again, in my previous how-to video, I had a special mod to kind of open it up, but a lot of people complained that I was not doing it in a game mode, so people were like, oh, that's cool, but how am I supposed to play this unit? Well, this is now kind of an example of how you play some of these units, so hopefully that provides a better explanation for you guys. But in any case, that's going to be it for the, I guess, in real time, like, showing the individual units. Now let's, again, go over and flip over to commanders. So thank you, Ace, for helping out during this part. Is there any last things you would say about the Wehrmacht that really helped them out? Because I would say the Wehrmacht is probably best for, like, just your...
Wehrmacht's a real combined army.
Yeah.
Type deal. You're really going to need a versatile army to be extremely effective. Brumbars, Panzer IVs. You can spam units and will somewhat be effective. Like, you can spam Panzergrens with the Shreks and kill a lot of vehicles on the map, but you'll be more vulnerable to people who go Katyushas, KV-8s, and stuff like that. So, the more versatile your army, the more effective it is.
Yeah. But and that's the nice thing about the Wehrmacht compared to even, like, the Americans. Oh, my God! Everything's dying. Everything's dying. Actually, it's fine. But in any capacity, make sure, again, you keep units alive as well. Because I just lost a unit, and I just lost a unit with 2 veterancy. So just point, for example, you want to make sure that you keep your units alive, because a higher vetted unit is way better than a base unit. So, you know, if you're being clumsy and you let the unit die, that's kind of your fault. You have a sniper there, don't you, to kind of see?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, so by the way, another thing you can use for snipers is have them on hold fire, kind of walk them up, and you kind of use them as recon units. Very expensive if you lose it, but it's something people can do, and that's how he's able to get sight lines on that tank. But even though I couldn't see any infantry or anything around me. So, just an example. But in any case...
awareness.
Yep, map awareness. So, again, try to keep your units alive. It will help you out on any faction. But otherwise, that's going to be it. Let's go over to commanders. Thanks, Ace. Hello, everyone. Now to go over commanders. And I'll go over these, again, just as a base recommend or don't. Just because of the fact people can always use the strategy, but there's maybe just a situation where it's not great in, so I kind of want to highlight that. Again, the Wehrmacht and the Soviet have the majority of the commanders compared to a lot of factions which only have like 10, but that being said, even though they have more, that doesn't necessarily make them better, just how you use them. So let's get into it. Assault support, this one is very good if you're in terms of map control and trying to keep supplies going, because especially with the cargo truck, and if you deploy a lot of them, you can deploy that early because they don't require manpower and just constantly just earn resources, and that'll put you ahead. That will allow you to use the strafing run, which suppresses infantry and hurts infantry, or the frag bomb, which will slightly hurt, paralyze armor, essentially cripple them, and then also at least temporarily stun them, and also will destroy infantry and lightly armored vehicles. So that's great for just those scenarios, but because of the supply focus on this, you'll be seeing a lot of them. And the Tiger tank is of course a great heavy tank, which you can get a little quicker if you use the cargo trucks right, just mass producing that fuel and stuff like that, which will help you speed up. Now again, the cargo truck will cost manpower, but if you don't lose a lot of units, this can be a very, very effective doctrine especially, again, if you have a large portion of the map you know is going to be under your control, and just using that to your advantage and slowly push the enemy back. The enemy can counter this with some AA to shoot down the planes, but that being said, it's going to be a hard thing for them to counteract a Tiger, especially if you deploy it a little sooner. So I do give this one the recommendation. It doesn't necessarily have a crippling weakness, so that's why I'd also say it, because there's some doctrines on this map that in this game that literally it's crippling. There are doctrines that will not work, so that's why I want to kind of highlight. The only thing I will say is the artillery field officer. It's really, I mean, don't be wrong, it's good close range unit, it's good for also calling it artillery, but just how this doctrine's focused, I don't necessarily see how it kind of coincides, but it's not a bad overall extra unit to put in there. It's fine, especially if you use a lot of like artillery focuses, and let's say you want to attack and there's a great defensive line and you need to deploy smoke, you can always use that in. So again, really good doctrine. Blitzkrieg Doctrine. Again, you have Panzer Tactician, which allows you to deploy smoke, and Tactical Movement, which moves you up your infantry. Again, that doesn't mean they are better. It's essentially doing an oorah. I feel like a lot of people use Tactical Movement. They think, oh yeah, it's for Mother Russia, which is essentially a boost to combat effectiveness. It doesn't do that. Not at all. Not at all. So it just makes them run faster. But if you need it back up to the front, that can be pretty good. reconnaissance, overflight, again, pretty good for recon. So that, again, recon's always very, very important to know what the enemy has and where it is. Again, a lot of times people think I need the biggest weapon in the game. But if the enemy knows where that is, they can kind of deal with it as long as they're kind of resourceful. If the enemy doesn't know where that is, that's the biggest issue. So again, just as a kind of a little bit of a tip. And the command tank's great for not only just having a good short barrel Panzer IV, but even though it's not as powerful as a normal Panzer IV, it's good for also helping out your allies in your own units for a slight defensive bonus, which I think it's about 10% now, but that 10% can, again, make it survive a hit or two, again, depending on the unit. So overall, I do recommend this doctrine, especially with the super close air support, which calls in 2 planes to just strafe armor, and they'll hurt some infantry as well, but they're mainly designed to kill armor, and oh boy, they'll rip armor to shreds. Once again, I would probably say this is just a very supportive doctrine. It's not necessarily meant for, let's say, a lot of people think like, I'm just going to set down this heavy tank or something like that. That's going to win. That's not all doctrines focus. Some doctrines are just meant for unit preservation, which is what this is. It allows infantry to get out of situations faster, move up to the battlefield. Panzer tactician deploy smoke so you can try to escape. Overflight will help you see what the enemy has. So again, keeps everything alive. So this is a very just... This doctrine's meant to help yourself out to keep yourself in the game, so it's actually a good, maybe a little bit more beginner doctrine, so that way you can help keep yourself alive. And if you kind of master making sure yourself is alive with these abilities, then you could try another doctrine which doesn't necessarily have that bonus for you, but that way you keep yourself in the game. Wow, I've just realized how much time I spent on notes. Let's try to speed things up for these. Holy crap. Close air support. It has a lot of great airstrike abilities. Again, you have the recon, anti-infantry strafe, anti-tank strafe, and a Stuka bombing strike, which I can't say this enough. The Stuka bombing strike can neutralize enemy points. Anyway, those capture points. The reason I say that is because people forget. They'll have so many munitions, but they won't call the bombing strike in, and they just need to decap, let's say, a command point, a fuel, a star, something like that. Again, they just don't use it. Remember, people, unless there's a fuel cache or munitions cache, if it's just base, you can knock it out, and that can really save you the game. The problem with this doctrine is and again, you have the supply drop, which will drop fuel or munitions on a fuel or munitions point, which will give you a little bit of a boost for sacrificing some manpower. The problem with this doctrine, it's so bad if the enemy has a ton of AA. If the enemy has a ton of AA, this doctrine's almost useless, because they'll shoot down all the planes before they even get to you, except for the Stuka bomb strike, which can't be shot down. But everything else can be. So if the enemy has AA, do not use this doctrine. I will straight out, do not use this doctrine. But if the enemy doesn't have a ton of AA, then I can see it being a viable option, but the enemy could always get more AA later on. So that's the crippling weakness of this doctrine. It's just a lot of AA, so just take mind of that. Anyway, we have the defensive doctrine, which used to be it was a free doctrine Relic gave away that was okay. This one has the Ostruppen, which is weaker than normal Grenadiers and has less abilities than Grenadiers, but on the flip side, they're cheaper and they're meant for really defensive play. They are better in cover, and they can still get MG42s, and I believe still Panzerfaust, they just don't have a rifle grenade. But they're still good for defensive play. You have, again, defensive fortifications that you can deploy, which include more sandbags, trenches, also tank traps and concrete bunkers, which, again, if done correctly, yes, you can always be just really annoying to dig out. The Stug E is really good against infantry. Is more like a proto Sturmtiger / Brumbar. It's a weaker version of those. But that being said, it's not necessarily ineffective versus infantry, or light that it's not really worth it. It still is, but you just have to be very aware of your surroundings with this unit. The Pak 43, again, easily my favorite AT gun in the game, by far. It can shoot through destructible buildings and or environments, so trees. It'll fire through trees and hit armor, which is exactly what you need, especially if you want to blindside the enemy. It's great. The only downside is, again, it can easily be knocked out by artillery, so just take that. And sector artillery is great because, again, it's just a nice artillery barrage to hit enemy units in a sector. Now, do I recommend this doctrine to use? With this setup, maybe not. Just because I like the Pak 43. I think Ostruppen are great. It depends. I don't care for the Stugi, and the Sector Artillery is okay. If you like these abilities, and again, I'll say this for a lot of them, then this can be very good for you. And I do recommend you trying out each of these doctrines. It's just one of those situations where it may not be as great as you think. Especially with this setup. But that being said, if you like Ostrupen, and some people really like Ostrupen, then this can be a really good one for you. Because, again, you get the Pack 43 as well with Sector Artillery. Which, again, by itself, it's good. Now, this one, oh boy. This one I didn't really care for the longest time. It's the Elite Troops Doctrine. And this one, you get Stormtroopers, which can deploy in buildings, come out. You can upgrade your infantry with a Jaeger infantry upgrade, which again gives them G43 rifles. You get the Model 24 stun grenades. You get Panzer Tactician. You get the Tiger Ace. And again, a lot of those are really just support abilities for infantry. The Panzer Tactician will keep your armor alive. And the Tiger Ace, this is... I'm probably going to be the minority in the community on this, but I don't like the Tiger Ace. I think it's a waste. Now, again, just kind of put in perspective. Why? Because essentially it's a 3-star Tiger that you can deploy that's slightly better than a 3-star Tiger. It's because it costs 800, I think it's 800 manpower and 150 fuel, and you will not get any fuel income. Again, you see, once deployed, fuel income will cease, and manpower will be reduced by 25%. So... yeah, this is, again, this is something like you need like a last resort to kill the enemy, just deploy this and you're fine. I really don't like this doctrine because it can cripple you if used incorrectly, which is why I don't really recommend it for newer players because they can seriously be winning, deploy the Tiger Ace, and just screw their entire line because of how much infantry manpower they're losing and stuff like that. So, just in perspective, I would say kind of be more wary about this doctrine. It can be very powerful if used correctly, especially with, again, the G43 rifles, the Stormtroopers, etc. But it can be very easily used incorrectly, too. Now, this is another one that can be used either incredibly well or you will suck at it. And I'm kind of in the middle of the two. But most people, I would say, can probably use this either really well and be like, oh, that was amazing, and turn the tide of the entire battle, or not. This is also by far one of the most powerful doctrines you will deploy in this game, just period. Why? Very simple. You have Stormtroopers, once again, deploy out of buildings if they're not occupied, and they can be equipped with G43, well, I think it's G43s, with the last one, I'm sorry, with the elite troops. But also these can be deployed with the Panzerschrecks or the SCG-44s, again, good against infantry or armor. You get the break supply line, which is a cheaper Stuka bomb that won't hurt infantry, but mainly just knock out points without the munition or fuel cache. You have breakthrough, which will make vehicles able to capture points. And then you have the mother of all abilities, close to pocket. This will just do a light artillery barrage if you don't do the following statement. But if you cut off all of the enemy territory from their base, which can be usually on maps are 2 to 3 points, the points that are currently outside of the enemy's base that is currently cut off, they will be hit by so much artillery that it will destroy no matter what it is. And this is what I mean. I've been the unfortunately the person who's dealt it and been the recipient of this doctrine. And it is so powerful. It will with this one ability will kill an entire enemy team if used correctly. That is how powerful it is. But you need to cut off the enemy in team, and that can be very, very annoying and difficult for depending on the map. Red Ball Express, very easy. And then you think of other maps, let's say City 17, it can be a lot more difficult. But again, if used correctly, this map can literally cripple the entire enemy line. So take note of that, and again, this definitely needs some experience to get done, but if used correctly, it can be very powerful. Festing armor. You get Panzer Tactician, you get Hull Down, which again, you can essentially just like fortify your armor, make them unable to move, but just makes them more powerful. Pack 43, Command Tank, again, better defensive abilities, and the Railway Artillery, which is the artillery that will come down and fire multiple, like, I think it's three caliber shells come down and just cause a lot of damage. Again, it is very, very powerful, but the problem is most people just go away from the area that currently received it, which is why I don't necessarily like a lot of railway or kind of static artillery, because you can just literally leave and you'll be relatively fine because it takes so long. They have increased it in recent patches, but it is something to take note of. Overall, I know Sean likes this doctrine a lot. I don't really care for it as much. It is great for more defensive play, especially if you hold down, let's say, a panther. It can be very difficult to kill. But if the enemy has, let's say, IL-2 bomb strikes, you're kind of screwed. So, again, just take note of what the enemy has, especially if you're going with that. Festing support doctrine. You get the mortar half-track, which is essentially a mobile mortar that's armored that can deploy anywhere. Plus, you get a special ability that deploys fire on the enemy. So, overall, it's pretty good. It does cost a bit of fuel, but it can be very potent versus the enemy if used correctly. Smoke bombs, which again, deploys some cover or allows you to move up on the MGs. Relief infantry, which again, if you're losing a bunch of stuff, it'll help you get it back. Artillery, again, the 1005 centimeter field howitzers are very, very good, or the Left 18s, whatever you want to call them, are very good at counteracting other artillery as well. And they, especially because they have the counter barrage option similar to the mortar. The problem with these, though, is they are 400 manpower and 50 fuel. So that can cause a delay on, let's say, getting more infantry or armor. And a lot of people will go a lot of artillery spam, and that can really screw them in the end. So make sure you don't put too many of these suckers, but it can cause a lot of issues with the enemy. Also, they added a direct fire option with the artillery, so it is a bit better. I never use the direct fire ability because they usually suck, as I've learned that with the B4. But that being said, it can be something that is very good for countering enemy emplacements and fortifications. Do I care for this doctrine as much? No, I don't care for leaf infantry and stuff, so a lot of these abilities are used better elsewhere. But again, if you like how it's set up, maybe this doctrine's for you. Fortified armor doctrine. This one, again, comparatively to the last one, I think I prefer a little more. Because we saw over here, it's like, oh, this one, you get the railway. But I would rather switch out that railway with something a little better. This one, you get both recon, the hull down, the Panzer Tactician, the command tank, and now an elephant. The elephant is the second most powerful tank destroyer in the game. The Jagd Tiger, in my opinion, is number 1. But you can use the recon to really extend that elephant's range, and it'll just annihilate a lot of enemy armor as long as you keep them a distance. You can also haul it down, so again, you increase defenses and damage for it. It can be very, very powerful. And this is what I mean by, like, certain doctrines are used better elsewhere. I would rather have the, you can see here it doesn't have the recon ability, and you remove the Pack 43 essentially for the elephant, but I'd rather have that stuff than the other one. Again, it depends how you prefer your strategy, but this is another defensive one that I prefer more because I see a lot more uses for this, but that's just me. Now we have German infantry. This one just changed. So it used to be completely different, and they decided to revamp a couple commanders, and this is something that's changed with the most recent patch. The German infantry doctrine, I would say, is pretty good. The half-track can be good because you can get infantry inside and kind of help flank the enemy. Stormtroopers, again, always good for getting around and kind of sneaking up on enemy lines. Plus, you can use them as recon. You can have them hold fire and just, like, wait, and that way you can see enemy forces go by. You can be like, oh, that's what's coming. The veteran squad leaders, this is something that's very interesting, and I haven't seen it used too much, but from what I can tell, it's pretty good. You can upgrade your infantry to be better, so you have essentially, it can help counteract a lot of the British infantry, which can also increase infantry, kind of stuff like that, where you get another squad member in there. This is pretty good for kind of making sure grenadiers don't become, like, obsolete with upgraded Breds on, let's say, on a British infantry squad, like fully upgraded, or fully upgraded rifleman squad, or something along those lines. So that's good. I mean, but again, it does cost a bit, but again, it helps them gain a little bit more effectiveness, which I would say is worth it. Assault and hold, again, great for trying to capture a lot of territory very quickly. And frag bomb is always great for killing infantry or light armor, etc. Overall, I do like this doctrine. I do think that it was a nice upgrade to it, and I think this is good for players who want to do more infantry focus, that really want to just focus on their micro game and kind of maneuver the battlefield, and really like grenadiers and just want to make sure that they are as powerful as possible, or even Panzer Grenadiers. So this is more of an, again, infantry focused doctrine, as it says in the title, but it's well deserved of that name. So I do enjoy it. German mechanized. Okay, so I've seen this a lot. A lot of people use it. I'm actually kind of curious why. Maybe it's just the kind of units you get. You get artillery, command tank, spawning scope, which allows people to see further when they're not moving. When they're not moving. People move, and they don't. It's not used effectively. I'm like, why are you moving away? But in any case, again, you also get smoke. And the big thing about this, you get the mechanized grenadier group, which essentially is a grenadier squad with, again, a special weapon inside of a half-track. This can be good for counteracting MGs by deploying it, but that being said, you can also do the exact same thing if you want by getting a normal half-track by the Germans have, and just putting a bunch of infantry inside and just going around an MG. Again, you could be like, oh, it's a unit you can deploy, sure. But overall, I don't care for this one too much. I find that you can always, again, for the mechanized group, you can always get another unit. Spotting scope is used better elsewhere. Artillery is used better elsewhere. So if you like it, that's great. I think it just doesn't have a good sync to it, in my opinion. But in any case, Jaeger armor. This is when I'm like, yes, this has a good sync to it, because you can lay down mines with half tracks. So essentially, that prevents flanks. Which then, if you allow the spotting scope and recon to take place, you can see the enemy's battlefield. You can then use Stuka bombs with that recon to neutralize enemy positions, and then you can also use the elephant to fire at enemy armor. This is a great doctrine to keep armor away from you, and then just annihilate them with a slow and steady push, while also making sure you know what the enemy's doing. That's why I like this one. It has good synchronized unity to it compared to other ones. Like, again, you can kind of see the mine stop vehicles from flanking the elephant. The elephant fires the vehicles long range. The recon allows you to see where the vehicles are, and the Stuka bombs help counter fortifications and placements, large groupings, etc. So it has a good sync to it, and that's what I like about commanders, having a lot of things that kind of go together. Overall, what do I have to say? Again, I probably have to put in my top commanders, but yeah, it does have a really good sync to it if used correctly. Jaeger infantry, this one again can have a good sync to it. Ambush training again kind of helps you out with your infantry, just allows them again to sneak up upon the enemy, do a little bit of extra damage. You get the G43 rifles, which again a little bit more powerful. Jaeger command squad is okay. You can deploy them once again from buildings, but the thing is, they're really good for killing weakened infantry with their rifles. It's just they're not necessarily, you just have to use them properly. I feel like a lot of people just charge in with them and expect them to be more powerful than grenadiers, which in actuality they're just a different variant of the grenadier. Light artillery barrage, good for killing fortifications on infantry blobs, and the Succulus Airsport good against vehicles. If you're going to focus more on infantry, this can work out for you again. But that being said, there's more powerful infantry focused doctrines, but I see why people go this. Joint operations. This one, once again, has a good sync to it. You have an artillery field officer, which again can call in all the artillery in one sector, which is great for the LFH-18s. Pack 43 is great for defenses. Recon's great. Artillery good for blobs. Yeah, sure, you could always say that these are probably used better elsewhere, but this is the only place you'll find both the LF-18 and the Pack 43 together. So if you really like that combo, plus you want some recon, this is a great doctrine to have. Lightning War, this one's pretty good, especially with the infantry focus, because again, you can pretty much have really fast, really strong infantry that redeploy very quickly, and again, have really good guns, and then also supported by planes versus armor. Plus, you get a Tiger tank to boot. So this can be very good, especially if you focus on infantry, and you really want to make sure you have an infantry focus. So there's that. Luftwaffe Supply Doctrine, this one is another one where it's like, it can be very, very good in certain situations, as long as the enemy doesn't focus on AA. If the enemy focuses on AA, you're kind of screwed. But again, it has a lot of good abilities. Drop medical supplies, more munitions, more fuel, recon abilities. Instead of the close air support and AT strafe, you get a firebomb strike, which is pretty powerful, just stopping the enemy from advancing or just hitting their a forward base with fire to kill emplacements or such. And of course, you get the Stuka bombing strike. So overall, this is very good if used correctly, though take note that A, it's munition heavy, same thing like the other one, and B, if they have a lot of AA, you can kind of screw yourself, so be very cautious about that. Now this is, in my opinion, probably one of the worst doctrines that the Wehrmacht has, but for some reason, some damn reason, people love this doctrine. I think it's because of the Ostrupen, but I think it's better used elsewhere, and I think we'll get to that in just a moment. We'll get mobile defense, and I don't really see this because, again, counterattacks, great, you capture territory quicker. You got command tank, you got panzer tactician, you got Ostrupen, which, again, you can deploy more Ostrupen. And then you also got the Puma armored car, which is an OKW unit, but you can deploy it here. And essentially what a Puma is, it's a lighter armored vehicle that's really good for, striking light armor from a distance, or even like medium or heavier armor from a distance, especially with the special ability to cause a malfunction on the tank. But the problem, and also it can deploy smoke. The problem is I never understand what the point of this doctrine is, and that's just me. It's called mobile defense, but you're supposed to attack with it. And again, Ostrupen are not really meant to attack, they're more for defense. So the whole point I could see is using this to kind of hold out against an attack and then kind of move up slowly. But I don't know. A lot of these abilities are good supportive, but you're kind of waiting for that like extra bonus thing. I don't see it. I just really don't. That's just me. Maybe I'm crazy, but I know a lot of people love this doctrine. I don't know why. Tell me down in the comments if you know. But in any case, Ostrupen doctrine. Oh boy, people love this doctrine as well. Because not only do you get Ostrupen, but you get, of course, the trenches, which is good for putting an MG in. You get the artillery field officer, which again can help support. Supply drop, and this is probably why, because you get a little bit of fuel. You get MG34, and you get a Pack 40. So you get a bunch of extra weapons, stuff like that can really help you out if you just need that really drop, and especially with the Ostrupen that can reman it very quickly, very cheap. You can have essentially very quickly you can have a large army that it can be very powerful. So that, again, this doctrine's great, especially if you're an Ostrupen fan. Plus, you get railway if you have to deal with fortifications. So you can have an army that's cheaply reinforced, but still quite powerful if used correctly. So again, pretty good. And out of probably the three with Ostrupen, I would probably say that's the better one. But once again, it kind of depends on the person. Some people will kind of focus on the, what was it? What was the other Ostrupen? Damn it, I'm forgetting. I'm already forgetting. This is terrible. I'm showing how bad I am at this game, which people are going to call me out for. Where are you, Ostrupen? I swear. And of course, defensive doctrine. Probably compare, like, if you want Ostrupen, either defensive doctrine or go the Ostrupen. But otherwise, I don't recommend mobile defense. I really don't. But again, if you like it, that's great. Spearhead is where I would really focus on the mortar half track, because not only you get the mortar half track, you get the smoke that can help keep it alive along with your vehicles. You get recon, you get the frag bomb, and a tiger. To be fair, I feel like this has more sync to it of a doctrine ability compared to the other where the other mortar half track was. But that's just me. This one's great for, once again, just keeping your stuff alive and having a nice variety of counteracting emplacements as well. So really like it. Storm Doctrine. I know they changed it I believe recently. I think they did a little change to it, but maybe I'm crazy. But overall, this one's another one where it's okay. You get artillery, you get smoke bombs, you get the Stuka bomb strike, ambush training, and you get the Regal mine. But they all are like different things. You don't really have a sync to it. But that being said, if you kind of like a majority of these and you're like, hey, I really like my infantry having ambush, or you like mines, or you like artillery with the Stuka, or you like the smoke bombs, which can be used as free recon, or not free recon, but cheap recon for a pass. Yeah, okay, I could see it. But overall, this one's kind of another one where I don't really feel a sync to it. But this could be something where people just like a majority of the ability, so they just use it for that. But in any case, that's it. Again, you can kind of customize the bulletins to how you like it. Again, whatever units you use most, that's why I recommend with the bulletins. There's not really one that's better or worse. Just please, for the love of God, don't do something that deploys 10% faster. Oh my God, those bulletins suck. But that kind of goes over the Wehrmacht. Hopefully you guys enjoy this updated how to play video. You guys have been hounding me to update this for a while. But again, my stance is there just isn't a ton that's changed. But hey, if you like me going over these compared to my last video, which was a couple years ago at this point, great. And like I said, all this week and possibly even next week, depending, because I still want to put replays out, actually, come to think of it, on Tuesday and Thursday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, my goal is to also have how to play videos, so we'll see how that goes. But hopefully you enjoy this. But in any case, let me know what you think. Let me know other strategies down below that you can add. And again, a lot of these focuses go well with other doctrines and commanders that you kind of sync up with. So again, you can kind of have something where someone goes more of an infantry focus, but then you combine that with someone that's really, really good against armor. So an example would be maybe something like assault support, because you get a ton of munitions, or encirclement, or something like that. You can kind of make great strategies out of it, which I highly recommend. So again, just kind of like test out, see what you will, and maybe you can find a really good combo with another teammate of yours. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the Wehrmacht, and also could be with the OKW. So a great thing would be something with the OKW would be with the fortifications doctrine. You could use zeroing artillery, which needs sight, with one of these recon abilities. So that's a simple basic one, but again, you can kind of go a combo with it. But in any case, guys, that's going to be it for this how-to video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 10K overall by the end of the month, and if I do, I'll do a special live stream and possibly a Christmas video. Oh God, help me. But in any case, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. It's been Greyshot17. I'll see you all next time. Hello everyone, and before I go, I want to give a special shout out to Rifle, JP Val, JustThomasPlays, jrchicklis, Streakingwookie, Matthew Leppen, Milam, Onlyplayapples, WhiteHotD, sgtMcPain, Ollie, Delta, Joey, Ace, Jordan Savat, RASpawn, Nathan Angus, Aaron Yee, Tim, and of course, Leo Lou. Thank you all for your amazing support, and I'll see you all next time.